Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Welcome to, just one welcome this time, Jacob. Welcome to Talking Grit. I'm Jason Harwood. With me is my buddy, Jacob Litt. It is our weekly time to talk about the Lions. Before we get into all this stuff, Jacob, how are you doing?
I just want to point out that was one welcome, but you took a very big breath of air. I don't like.
Did I?
Are you okay? It took you a second.
I did. I'm taking a deep breath to calm myself down. My son, who's not even 15 yet, is starting driver's training. So it's going to take all my patience, all my caring, all my dad skills to get through this time in my life. So yeah, I can't believe I'm here, but it's, I needed a deep breath to calm myself down before we start arguing about these positions.
Right? Shouts out to him.
Yeah, exactly. So
I've been good, man. I went to a Mud Hens game. I didn't tell you that. I went to a Mud Hens game the other day. And
did you?
It was one, it got rained out. So, I mean, they called it in like the 8th inning, but we had left because of the impending storms. I had the kids and everything with me. You know how much I hate to leave sporting events early, but, you know, I had all of them with me. I was like, this is going to be a nightmare once it starts downpouring walking to the car. So had to cut my losses there. We left. I believe it was tied when we left. Mud Hens ended up losing. I came within like 3 feet of catching a Max Clark foul ball, though.
Really? That's
where
awesome.
We were at. It's like, okay, you know what? If a lefty comes up and hits it the right way, it's going to come this way. And I had the mitt with me, too, just waiting for it. And then sure enough, this one pops up. And I stood up and I'm waiting. I'm like, it's coming pretty close. And it hit the upper deck. So, you know, we're down. It hits the upper deck. Sometimes they don't catch it and it comes bouncing up.
Yeah.
It bounced, land the row in front of me, the seat over.
Man,
And then it was like, man, if I thought about it, I was like, I should have dove. Should have just dove on the people.
Yeah, that'd be cool too, especially come from Max Clark, future Tiger there.
Right?
That'd be awesome.
Hopefully. We'll see.
Yeah, I got tickets. I just bought tickets for a Mud Hens game. So hopefully, it's in July. So I don't know if Max will be on the team at that point. He might be up on the big league team by that. We'll see how things are breaking down here.
Can't be much worse than it is.
Yeah. So Jacob and I are starting a series right now that we're both pretty excited about. We're going to break down each of the positions. So this week it's going to be linebackers and tight ends. Some weeks we're going to break down 2 positions. Some weeks it'll be 1. Kind of just depends on what Lions news is going on and how big the position is that we're going to break them down. So what we hope to gain through this is a better understanding of both this year's outlook on the position and then future years' outlook for the Lions. Along with that, we're going to look at the same position groups for each of our NFC North division foes so that we got to see where they're at. At the end of this, Jacob and I are going to rank where we think the Lions are in compared to we're going to rank the whole NFC North in each position. After that, a fun little discussion is our 3 favorite all-time Lions from positions. Now it's like your favorite Lion, so it doesn't have to be like the best Lion. And it's I don't know about you, Jacob, but I'm only looking at people that I've watched while I watch the Lions. So like if it's
same
someone before, they're probably not going to make my list. So when we get to tight end, we have Charlie Sanders, not going to make my list because that was before my time, right? So even though he's an all-time great with the Lion, just not going to happen.
Was that before your time?
It was.
That's debatable. When did he play?
Yeah. There is a time before my time. Yeah. So and then we're going to do our top 5 NFL players at the position. And then our GOAT, our greatest of all time at the position, not just Lion, just like in the NFL. And some of those, I think that could be a combination of what we've seen and maybe just some highlights in history. I'm not sure how Jacob took the assignment, but
we'll figure out when we get there.
Yeah, we'll figure out, and we're gonna kind of play this by ear. We don't know how long this is gonna run, and we might change this up. If there's something that you really like, let us know in the comments. If there's something that we need to add, like we overlook something, we want to know that too. I'm hoping that at the end of this, that everyone's got a really good feeling of what the overall outlook for each of these positions by the end of this, like our whole team, but like also inside the division. We used to do like one show where we would break down the division opponents, but we thought we would break it down by position. And then by the end of this series, you're going to have a better, idea of what the other team has in store. So at least that's what we're hoping. Before we get to that, really quickly, OTAs are coming up. So they have them for the next, it starts tomorrow. So if you guys listen to this, the day it comes out on the podcast feed, it'll be today, the 27th. So we got like 3 practices, 27th, 28th, 29th. And for the next 3 weeks, there'll be 3 practices. Now the beat writers get access to 1 per week. So they don't get to see all 3 practices, not like training camp where they get to see all the practices, but they will get to see that. So we're gonna have, some actual feedback of what they're seeing, what players are out there, all that stuff. That'll be the first time this season that we're going to have that. So my question to you, Jacob, is what are you hoping to hear from the beat writers, or what are you hoping to hear reported from practices?
With OTAs, I don't think there's not really too much information that's going to come out that's going to blow your mind or be anything like positive or negative. For me, though, I think it would just be, I just want to know who participated. I want to know who's in the building, the players that are injured. Are they there? How are they looking? Are they going through drills? I think that's just what I'm going to be looking towards, is who's out there.
Yep. That's what I'm looking at. Is Sam Laporta out running routes? Is he, like actually practicing, or is he on the sideline with a trainer? Same thing with Branch. Like, is he got a boot on? Like, this is the first time they're
Yes.
going to have eyes on these guys. How's Kirby look? Is Kirby out there? Is Kirby, those are the guys that I really want to see. You're not going to see anything from the offensive line, because it's no offense versus defense during this time. You might get a situation where you're seeing Miles Frazier line up at tackle or guard, but you can't really read too much into that because it's early and they're just like getting them reps at different areas. So training camp will be a lot better idea. Because I think for me personally, I want to see how everybody looks. There might be some physical changes with some of these players. Like I remember last year, Jameson Williams, the beat writer, saying how like he added some muscle definition. He was able to run some different routes, the comeback routes, because he was able to stop quicker and get back. So something like that would be interesting to hear. But I think I'm with you. I want to know who's out on the field, how they're looking. Like, is it Kirby of old, or is it going to be the same thing we had last year where Kirby's just not out there and he's on the, he's just on the sideline.
Right. A lot of unknowns.
Yes.
Don't like that.
No, don't like that at all. I do want to remind everybody to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts. I do prefer you to do YouTube, especially with this. We're doing a lot more visual stuff. I think you get a lot more out of it. But obviously, some of us listen while we're working or while you're driving, and cool, whatever way you want to listen to us, that's fine. You can also follow us at Twitter at Talking Grit at Talking Grit Pod. All right, Jacob.
And if you do just listen, if you don't watch on video, I'll warn you, Jason looks exactly like how you thought he would look.
Correct. Big ears, just, bald. Yep.
He wears a hat to protect the baldness. So you don't have to worry about that as much on here. But
actually, I don't do it to protect the baldness. This light that's in front of me, man, the glare would be something horrendous, dude. We can't have that.
Several times when I worked with Jason, I told him, it's like the glare over there, man. You're blinding me. I can't even count.
Oh, it couldn't work in the drive-thru at work, man. There's people blinding them, people in the car. Hey,
it's a hazard.
Visual question though for you. You have a new shirt behind you. Is that a Talking Grit shirt?
Yes, Deanna. My wife makes shirts. She got the printer up and decided to use one of those old Talking Grit things that she had just to check out the press. It was kind of a throwaway thing. Like, let me just use this whole design. Yeah. I was like, you know what? I'll just I'll hang it up here sometimes.
That's cool.
I'll keep a rotation so it's not always the same anymore.
All right, cool. Well, I like it, man. That's awesome. All right, Jacob, I'm going to let you break down the Lions linebackers. We got the list on the screen there, and then we could also talk about Jack Campbell's new the contract that he signed. More details got listed, so I'll let you tell everybody about that.
Just a quick breakdown of all the Lions linebackers. Obviously, we're going to start with Jack Campbell. We have Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez. Those are your 3 presumable starters. The rookie Jimmy Rolder, Trevor Nowaski, Damone Clark, Joe Bocci, Eric Hunter. Those are all the linebackers that are currently on the roster. Obviously, that does not mean these are all the linebackers that will be, making the final 53. But as of right now, this is what the outlook looks like. Do you want to break down the Jack Campbell? We just got the details of the Jack Campbell contract. Why don't you break that down?
All right. Yep. So they added 4 void years on top of that. So that 51.5 million guaranteed is going to get spread out through 2030 plus 4 more years, meaning that his base salary is going to be very low. Base salary next year is 1.26 million, and at 28 1.305 million. 29 it is 15.15 million, and then it goes back down to 2.75 million in 2030. It's got option bonuses throughout that. It's kind of like the Kirby contract. A lot of option bonus stuff coming up. That also guard against what happened to Taylor Decker, where they'll cut you, and then or Frank Ragnow, where they ask you to have some of your money back because they, won't. That option bonus hadn't been paid out yet. So the cap hits are a little more complicated because of when those option bonuses hit, then they spread out throughout the whole length of the contract. Void years, I'm not a huge fan, but it's just the way the NFL does things nowadays. The people want to say the cap isn't real, you can make everything fit. Well, you have to pay for that somewhere down the line. And you look at like a team like the Saints, they've been just in cap hell for like ever because of stuff like this. You look at the Eagles, they love doing these void years. And at some point you figure they're gonna have to pay. And at some point we're gonna have to pay. You're hoping the cap keys keep going up each year, but at some point you're going to pay for all this.
Does this make you think, not to get off of the linebacker talk, but the contract looking like this, does this make you think that the Jahmyr Gibbs, the Branch, the Laporta, do you think that this is going to be typical with these contracts? Or do you think we got fancier with this one because Jack may be the most reliable long-term that we have? Like maybe the other guys get more money up front and Jax gets kicked down the road? Or do you think that this is just the framework for how they're going to do this?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious. Now, Laporta Branch, they have those injuries that they're dealing with right now, so that really complicates things. So I don't know. I don't know if it has anything to do with that. The Jameer thing, I would be surprised if they don't do option bonuses because of the injury risk history, and then just trying to get out of that if they have to.
It's interesting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
don't know how it's going to look when these all come out.
Yeah, I don't know.
But we just want a way to get them all done, which works now, but a different question when you're looking at, 2028, 2029, and then, the outlook for how the contracts look.
Yep.
Hindsight's always 2020.
It is 100%. You look at Kirby, I didn't really like the option bonuses at the time, but that actually might help the Lions because of his injury stuff. So it is what it is. Hey, like you said, hindsight's 2020. We'll know more in a few years, and everybody can have their solid opinions that they said they had from the outset. But we're on this podcast, so we could always go back and double check what we really said at the time.
Right.
So Jack is signed through 2030. We got Jimmy Rolder. He's through 2029 because we drafted him this year. But everybody else, and Eric Hunter is an undrafted free agent. Who knows if he's going to make the team or not. Then you have Derek signed through 2027, but anybody else is just signed through this year. So, and Derek is a big question for next year. If he performs at a similar level, he could be on the cutting block. And then really the only linebacker that we would have, you'd have Jimmy Rolder and Jack Campbell, that's signed this year that could be back for next year. So are you okay with that? Do you wish there was more stability there? Or what's your feelings about that in general?
I mean, you want the best player to play, right? You're trying to build the best roster that you have. And if Derek Barnes is not cutting it and you have to take that look of, is he worth what we're about to pay him or do we cut our losses? I mean, that stinks if that's the situation, but I mean, I think you'd have to be okay with that. Malcolm Rodriguez, you also could sign, depending on how he plays, you could sign Rodrigo again. I'm sure Rodrigo wants to be here. It's not like he's going to be breaking records for a contract. Eric Hunter, I mean, that undrafted free agent that we got, who knows what's going to happen with that, but there is potential that Jack Campbell and Rolder are the only ones in this room this time next year.
Yep, exactly. I mean, you got Nowatzki who could, is the difference between Derek Barnes and Nowaski, money wise, that you're going to get between them, is that worth it, right? To hold on to Derek Barnes, or do you cut Derek, or do you ask him to take a pay cut next year if he doesn't perform up to what his contract states? So, I should have put on there, Jacob. I know if we cut him next year, we get 3.8 million in dead. We'll only have 3.8 million in dead cap. What is he signed for?
Let's see.
While you're looking that up, Jack Campbell, as far as like PFF grades, second, and then Derek Barnes, who you're looking up, was 43rd out of 88 linebackers. So pretty much right in the middle. What was his contract? You got it up yet?
I was trying to look to see exactly what the savings are going to be. But I mean, it looks like the dead cap is still going to be significant enough that savings are not really going to be great. You're looking at like $500,000 that we would save.
Okay.
His cap hit, his dead cap would be 2.5 million. Cap hit would be 2.4. Derek Barnes also has, 3 void years after that.
Yeah.
So
those void, they start to add up, don't they?
Right. So that's when you're talking how much value do we have, and is it worth paying him to not be here?
Mm-hmm. So, this year you're going to probably start out with Jack, Derek, and Malcolm. Malcolm's probably going to be your Will. Derek's going to be your Sam. And then, Jack is going to be your Mike. Now, Jimmy Rolder is probably going to be taking the Will position, which, he's going to go with Malcolm. Being a 4th rounder, I don't expect him to be starting, but it could, he could end up being that way. Would it be disappointing for you if Jimmy isn't starting by the end of the year?
No. I have no stock in Jimmy starting this year. I have no expectations. If he is starting, if there's no injury and he is starting because he's playing well, hats off to Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell and what we're doing here. I don't see that happening. I think if he's starting, then there's some sort of injury, something happened somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. And Trevor Nowaski, he's great to have on the team as a backup for your Sam spot with Derek Barnes. Derek Barnes needs to develop some pass rush or something to add to his repertoire. Like, we've been waiting for that since, and I don't know if that's ever going to come. To me, that's got to happen for him to hold that spot, like for us to not try to upgrade the next year.
I mean, I think that's where he failed, right? I mean, that was the primary, he's supposed to be able to provide some pressure. He's supposed to be able to be that edge drop. You don't know what he's doing. And the pass rush was not there at all.
Exactly.
He's good against the run. He's not able to make any sort of threat against the pass.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. We got Damone Clark too, and he could provide, backup at the Mike position. I've seen his run defense is very solid. I'm okay with that. So we'll see. I think we obviously take it a step back with losing Alex, especially in the coverage department. Do you think it's a massive step back, or are you disappointed with this line? Like, where do you feel like compared to last year where we're at?
I think we've downgraded from having Alex on there,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think it was time for Alex to move on with the contract stuff that was happening and the other players, the other positions that we need. I think it was the right move to let Alex go and kind of roll with what we have.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. I would like to have Alex on there, but probably not for what cap space he was going to take for this team. And, then they end up getting Jimmy. Hopefully Rolder can, show some progress this year.
And I know, real quick on the Alex stuff, because I know we kind of felt differently, but even seeing him in training camp and everything, I just think the fire was gone for Anzalone. I really feel like the contract, despite what everybody was saying and everything, he's a professional. He was out there doing it. I think that it took some of the fire away from him and it affected him on the field.
I could get with you on that. I don't know how much. It's hard to measure that. But I don't think you're totally wrong in saying that. I think that even when you start looking at Twitter, I mean, he's always been a little feisty on Twitter, like pulling up stats that he said and comparing everything like that. And, and then he loves Dan, he says, but he blames the front office people. But Dan was probably about that too. Like, he understood, the pros and cons of keeping Alex. and it just wasn't there. And I don't think Alex got what he thought he was going to get either. But he signed with Florida, no income tax down there, so he got, even though he signed for a little less, he's probably going to get, more than if he'd have signed it with the Lions, right? Not that that contract was out there. All right, so let's move through. Let's move through the Vikings linebackers real quick here. I'll go through these, Jacob. We got Blake Cashman, Jake Golday, Ivan Pace Jr., Eric Wilson. Those are their main linebackers. Then you have Josh Ross, Bengali, Kamara. Ooh, I
knew you were going to pause with
that
that.
out.
I knew.
Boom. Hey, I said it right though. Kelly Lawson and Jacob Roberts. Those last four are undrafted free agents. Last three are just undrafted free agents this year. The one was Josh Ross was undrafted free agent in 2022 from Baltimore. He's had like 0 defensive stats. He's mostly special teams.
That's a Michigan player.
Yeah, is it? I
Ross,
guess I forgot about that. All right, so I'm gonna start with Blake Cashman. He's signed through 2026. I've seen some sites that say that could be a cap casualty, like this like in this off season, like after training camp, they could save like 4.5 million. However, looking at their roster, I would find that hard to believe that they would cut Cashman and leave. Then you'd have Golday, Pace, and Wilson as your linebackers, and then it's all undrafted free agents after that. That would be scary to me if they were to do that.
Well, remember the Vikings are also in cap hell, so I mean,
Yes.
what do they do here?
Exactly. I don't know what. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be age 30, so I mean, he is getting up there. But also, I think with this Brian Flores defense, you need experience, right? You can't. Golday's a rookie. You can't expect him to be out there. A lot of times, they're putting either linebackers one-on-one, because they're rushing everybody else, or they're playing back and in zone and stuff like that. And you got to have people with experience. I fully expect Cashman to be on this team at the start of the season. I would be shocked.
Yeah, this season for sure. I mean, with what you have behind him, you're right. There's just no. I mean, you'd almost be throwing in the towel on your linebackers right away, and that'd be terrible for the rookie as well.
Mm-hmm. They did sign Eric Wilson to a 3-year, $22.5 million contract, and I remember talking with the Vikings people last year when we were on the other guy's podcast. I can't remember their name, and then also a Reef. They really liked Eric Wilson, so it doesn't surprise me that they signed him to that 3-year deal, and maybe he's got some growth there. And then Golday, 2nd-round pick, number pick 51 overall out of Cincinnati. Obviously, they're hoping that he could just step right in and start playing on day one. I know he was, on. Some people were even looking at him at the Lions in that 2nd round. Pace, however, what was he? He was 78th out of 88 in linebackers. Eric Wilson, even though they were excited, like I said, 45th out of 88, and Blake Cashman 40th out of 88. So you're hoping Golday can improve that unit, but it's still a pretty low rated unit.
I mean, with the injuries to Cashman, it's it's not great.
No.
They're hoping Cashman plays more like he did before the injury. They're hoping that he comes back, but
when you start hitting those 30 or that age 30, it takes a little longer to get ready. I also wonder how much a blind Flores defense like affects these ratings, because he puts them in difficult positions. So like like you're playing one-on-one positions, or you're just you're all over the place. You're either back into coverage, coming in the line, stunting. You're doing all sorts of weird stuff with this. So like the way they grade this stuff sometimes could be off kilter. But I would say that this defense was not. I mean, I know the Lions had trouble with them, but I think that was more of a problem with our offensive line than anything else. But they were not as dominant and disruptive as I've seen their defense in the previous years.
Agreed.
Yep. All right. Anything else on Vikings linebackers before we move on? All right. I'll let you do the Bears, Jacob.
The Bears. All right. The Bears have a ton of linebackers signed currently. So we're just going to start from the top. Devin Bush obviously the high-profile free agent signing that they have. TJ Edwards, Noah Sewell, Keyshawn. Isn't that Keyshawn Elliott? Is that a typo there? Is there an extra
I
T
think
in his
that's
name?
Yeah, I think so.
Elatot.
Tried to screw you up.
Keyshawn Elatot. Balake. Sorry. Dominique Hampton, Ruben Hippolyte, DeMarco Jackson, Wayne Matthews III, John Radigan, Jack Sanborn, and Nephi Sewell. Those are all the linebackers currently on the Bears roster. A ton of them. Yes. And at least half of them will not be there when the season starts.
Exactly. See, the Bears want to be so much like the Lions. They just keep getting Sewells on their team. They're like,
yeah, right.
Add all the Sewells.
They're just trying to strike gold, right?
Yeah. We have the best one, though, by
For
far.
sure. There's no debate there. But, I mean, Devin Bush, that's the high-profile one, right? 3-year, $30 million contract. You know, had a really good year in Cleveland last year. He signed through 2028. TJ Edwards signed through 2027. DeMarco Jackson would be your other starter there, and he's also signed through 2027. So those are the top 3 linebackers, presumably, that the Bears have right now.
Yeah. Now, Devin Bush was rated, I was surprised when I went to PFF, fourth best linebacker out of 88. But I have my thoughts of why he was the 4th best linebacker.
Everybody does. What? Let's hear what your...
Well, I mean...
Did it have something to do with who else was around him?
Yeah, I would say that, their defensive coordinator, and who else was in front of him. You're taking a lot of tension away. Nothing against Devin Bush. You and I both saw him at Michigan. We know what type of player he can be. Even this first year at Pittsburgh, he was good. Then he had trouble being healthy, and he just never really recovered in Pittsburgh. Had a really nice year last year in Cleveland, and he's going to make some money on that deal. Now, Chicago has nowhere near the defensive line that Cleveland does. So, I mean, he's going to have to really play well to have that, to make worth of that contract. I don't know what you feel about that, but that's kind of what the wide.
I mean, they're rolling the dice there, but he is a veteran now. Here's the thing: if TJ Edwards and DeMarco Jackson both play like 700 plus snaps, because I don't think either of them played that many snaps last year. If they play a high volume of snaps and look like they did, like in the small sample size last year, I think the Bears linebackers could be a problem. Devin Bush, obviously we know from Michigan and everything. We've seen the inconsistency. Part of that, I feel like, was him maybe putting too much pressure on himself and trying to do too much early on in Pittsburgh and then battling back from the ACL injury. He also signed that 1-year deal in Seattle. Like, everybody forgets that he played for the Seahawks because he was like a backup and a special teamer. And then he goes to Cleveland and just absolutely destroys it in Cleveland. But like you said, I mean, it's much easier to play linebacker when you don't have to worry about your defensive line blowing assignments, and you've got the offensive line completely overwhelmed and concerned about where the D-line is. And that's not just Myles Garrett. They had Mason Graham also. The line, as a unit, the Browns line is awesome. Way out of the Bears league. So now the Bears are kind of rolling the dice that Devin Bush is going to look like he did last year with this Bears line, and I don't think that's going to be the case. I do think the veteran, right? It's an upgrade for them. Bush is a veteran. I think that he can play like he did last year. I worry that the line being not as good is going to result in him going back to his old ways and trying to be everywhere and blowing assignments and trying to do too much. That's the concern I would have if I was, rooting for the Bears.
You're 100% right there. So, is that your home review? I'm just wondering. Is that you're gonna?
My home review?
Yeah.
If
exactly.
I'm being honest, if Bush looks like he did last year, and Edwards and DeMarco Jackson can play like they did in a larger sample size, I think that the Bears probably have one of the best linebacking groups. That's a lot of ifs, ands, buts.
Yep.
I don't think that's going to be the realization, but
no. But I if it was up to me, I'd rather not have Devin Bush sign there. But I also he doesn't overly worry me as a Lions fan too. I think he's solid in linebacker, but like you said, linebacker play is a lot built on, people up front doing their job, taking up double teams, you having attention, running stunts, creating space, and the Bears do not have the front to do those type of things. So Devin Bush is going to have a tough task. And you're right at Michigan, and I think in his not so much his rookie year at Pittsburgh, but for his next 2 years, he did that. He tried to do too much, and then he was getting injured, and he was just out of position. And that's then you're really in trouble. If your linebacker's out of position, that's when you give up big runs, and you just get in trouble.
Right. I mean, but at Michigan, it made him great because the level of play was not as good. And, he's blitzing from the weak side, and all of a sudden he's making a tackle from the strong side 10, 15 yards down the field. Like, he's awesome linebacker, athletic ability and everything, but then the injury happened. I also want to point out he had 3 interceptions last year, and 2 of them he returned for touchdowns. That does not happen in Chicago.
I don't know, man. They got so many turnovers last year. You might walk into something there. I hope not. Not going to happen, right? Yeah. We talked about the Sewells. You got Noah Sewell. He is going to be one of their primary backups. He kind of reminds me of like a Malcolm Rodriguez, just a guy that's going to play really well, loves football, but he's not the most athletic guy. But he's got the Sewell gene, so he's loves football, and he'll play his heart out. I don't know too much about Nephi though. I assume he's mostly just there for special teams.
He's there to sell tickets. No. Honestly, I had not even heard of Nephi until we put him on this list.
Oh, okay.
I was like, Jason made this guy up. Is he testing me?
Yes, that's what I do.
Right?
Let's see. So just to go through the PFF rankings, Devin Bush, how we mentioned before, was 4th. DeMarco Jackson was 13th out of 88. You got Noah Sewell was 81st out of 88, and TJ Edwards was 28 out of 88.
You don't have it on here, but I'm almost positive DeMarco Jackson played something like 300 snaps or so. Like, I don't think he was ranked 13th, but I think the snap count was significantly lower.
Was low. Okay. And that would
But that's what
sense.
I'm saying. If he's doing that, playing 1,000 snaps, you've got a problem on your hands if he's playing that well.
Yep. All right, let's move to the Packers linebacker crew here. I'll let you run through those.
They're all you. Packers linebackers. We're going to start with the best one on the team, Edgerrin Cooper. The rest of these guys, not so good. Zaire Franklin, Isaiah McDuffie, Tyron Hopper, Nick Neiman, TJ Quinn, Christian Welch. So the Packers only have, I think it's 7 linebackers signed to the roster right now, not including Micah Parsons, who would be considered an edge. There's quite a few, like when you look up these things, it's funny how edge, a lot of times they throw them in the linebackers, but
Luke Van
for
Ness
the purpose of
one.
this, right. For the purpose of this, we're not counting them as true linebackers.
Yeah, they'd be in the edge position. So that's one thing I meant to point out at the beginning that, some of these, if you depend on some of the team websites have as listed as outside linebackers, but I just I bunch them in as edge. And that's just the way it goes. So Edgerrin Cooper you're right. He's the star of the team. He was ranked 17th out of 88. I know that the team's super happy with him. The fans love him. He is going to be up for an extension. I think he's eligible to sign one this season. Don't know if that's going to happen, before the season or not, but I know that they're going to want to sign him. He had 4 sacks his first year, only 1 last year, but that's probably because Micah joined the team. I'm assuming that might cut into that total a little bit. We'll see. He, let's see here. I wanted to look at his. So he's got a great coverage score, pretty much really good across the board. Pass rush is a little low, but even that's 67. So that's a good score. The next guy that I want to talk about is Zaire Franklin. You basically traded Quay Walker. You didn't trade him, but Quay Walker's position went to Zaire Franklin. And I know that that's a name, but when I started looking at his stats, like started 17 games last year. He only had 62 tackles for your linebacker. That was extremely low.
62 solo tackles.
Yeah.
125 total. I was like, 62? That doesn't sound right. But no, you're right. You know, the funny thing about that is like Zaire Franklin for the last few years, to his credit, he's been playing like over 1,000 snaps a season.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like he's consistently, I think the last couple of years, been rated pretty low. Like he's been rated pretty poor as a linebacker on Pro Football Focus.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be doing something right for the Colts to continue to put him out there and start as many games. And now the Packers are going to rely on him coming in and being a starter.
Yep.
But I mean, for him to be rated so poorly, and now you basically hand him a starting job, it looks like, that seems wild to me. And about Edgerrin Cooper, before we just move by him, I really like Edgerrin Cooper. That's somebody that I would like to have in Detroit. He's somebody I think kind of does, maybe he's not, he's not all pro. He's not great at, everything, but he's good at everything. He's not going to be elite in one particular spot, but he's good at everything that makes him a good all-around linebacker. So I really like Edgerrin Cooper. There is a steep drop-off in the linebacker group after him.
Yes, 100%. I'm with you. We could have Edgerrin Cooper instead of Derek Barnes on this team. We'd have something. Oh my gosh.
Right.
That would be, he's like, Edgerrin Cooper is like what I would want Derek Barnes. You would get a little pass rush, can do the coverage. Like he could do it all. Like, and you still have Jack there. I mean, that would be a heck of a linebacking group. So I fully expect the Packers not to let him out the door. That they're gonna want to sign him, especially as you said, the linebacking depth behind him is not very good. You got Isaiah McDuffie's their other linebacker that's going to start 37th on PFF's list. Just couldn't average across the board. Can't really cover that well. Has a little bit of pass rush, but yeah, he's just he's not going to scare you out there. So. And then the rest of the guys are like Tyron Hopper started 2 games for them last year. Christian Welch only started 1 game for Baltimore last year, 22 over his career. Nick Neiman has only started 3 games in his whole career, not since 2023. And then the last guy's an undrafted free agent. The linebacking core with Green Bay is very, very thin. All right. So, do you want to talk about this chart that you put on there about the average PFF grades and stuff like that? I think that's pretty good information.
I just have a comparison just to try to show. I mean, as far as average age goes, all 4 Lions, Vikings, Packers, Bears were all pretty similar, all hovering around like 25 years old. Experience, all pretty similar. The difference that you have is in the average Pro Football Focus grade. So the Lions' average grade is 76.2. That's only amongst 2 players that played the minimum. And then the Vikings, 62.8, also on 2 players. The Packers, 59.9. And then the Bears, 66.5. And that's just taking the average out of the players that were eligible that met that minimum snap count. But then the more interesting thing for me, at least, is that the total contracts average annual value, the Lions with that Jack Campbell deal, we're number 1 with $40.3 million tied up for the linebacker contracts. That's in terms of average annual value. Number 2, the Bears, 30.7, and that likely is because of the Devin Bush deal. Then you've got the Vikings with 28.2, the Packers 25.5. So we've almost doubled how much the Packers have invested in their linebacking groups.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right, and maybe that's going to show up in our rankings, which we're going to do next. You want to do yours? NFC? You want to rank these units, or you want me to go first?
Let me go first because I do not have the visuals with mine, and you do. Right. So I'll let you do the visuals after. So
yeah,
my number 4 linebacking group in the NFC North, I actually put the Vikings at 4.
Okay.
So the Vikings at 4, I just put, I said before, Cashman battled injuries. I don't think their linebacker unit plays particularly well together. They dropped off after Van Ginkel left. Grenard is gone now also. The defense, the Vikings in general are going to look different, but the defense in particular is going to look different. And I just feel like if they're going into the season with Cashman, Ivan Pace, and Eric Wilson as the starters, I think they're going to struggle. That being said, the linebacker, Golday, like if he's starting right from the beginning, if he shows out, that was somebody that I thought the Lions could go after too in the draft. So, I mean, if he shows out, they could do okay. But right now I've got the Vikings at 4. Number 3 for me was the Packers. And I really just put them above the Vikings just because of the Edgerrin Cooper thing. We've already talked about it. Everybody else, not very well. Number 2, I've got the Bears. And that was just, like I said, if if Devin Bush plays like he did last year, if Edwards and DeMarco Jackson, I think that they could surpass us if they're all playing up to their potential. I just don't. At this point in time, if I'm betting, I would say none of them look as good as they did last year. And then number one, I have the Lions. So you can call this one the homer pick or whatever you want to say, but I don't think that there's no debate that Jack Campbell is the best linebacker in the North, right? Any other fan that wants to get on here and try to debate that their linebacker is better, you're wrong. There's just not a true debate. He's the best linebacker in the North. Not being a homer, that's just being realistic. Outside of Jack Campbell, Barnes and Malcolm, I think, are serviceable linebackers. I hope that they complement each other well with Anzalone gone, but I think just solely having Jack Campbell on our team makes us have the best unit.
Okay. All right.
And I'm interested to hear what you got here.
Let's see. Mine's the same exact list as you, my friend. So I don't want to reiterate everything that you just said, but Adrian Cooper is the difference maker as far as putting the Packers above the Vikings. Now, Goldie could be a difference maker. If, like you said, he shows out, then they might move him up. I think having Bush and TJ Edwards puts the Bears clearly above the Packers and the Vikings. I don't really think there's anybody else in their linebacking crew that I'm really overly worried about. And we'll see how Devin Bush plays this year. If he could stay healthy, that'll be a big difference of whether our rankings at the end of the year would be the same. But a lot of times, as far as the Lions being number one, you have the most talented player at this position in this division. Now, PFF has Devin Bush only 2 spots behind Jack Campbell. I say that Jack Campbell, if you watch him play, he has the incredible football IQ. He just happens to be where the ball is, will cause fumbles. Now, I know Devin Bush got the interceptions, and that's the development I want to see for Jack Campbell this year, is to be able to get his first interception and to be able to play a little, just get in coverage a little bit. But what he lacks interceptions, he will punch the ball out. And he is so good at that. Like that peanut punch that he has, I don't even want to call it a peanut punch because it's like a wallop. Like he just comes right in there. He's got, incredible talent doing that. So that's why the Lions are number one and my pick. Now, I would say Derek Barnes is serviceable. Malcolm Rodriguez is serviceable. But there's no one else. Even the depth on these other teams are not going to match any of that, and no one could come close to Jack Campbell. So that's why I have them ranked the way they have here. All right, Jacob. I'm going to go over my favorite Lions here. All right. So my 3 favorite Lions linebackers are Chris Spielman, my all-time favorite line. If you're looking on YouTube right now, I found an awesome picture of him bleeding down his face, which is an ultimate representation of Chris Spielman, laying it all on the line. Steven Tulloch, I loved watching him play. He was everywhere. He was exactly what you want a linebacker to be. And DeAndre Levy, I know that the injury stuff left a lot of bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, and even mine too. But he played at a level for a while that was really tops in the NFL. He would talk about getting interceptions at the linebacker position. He led the league one year. I love DeAndre Levy. So those are my 3 favorite all-time Lions at the linebacker position. Where are you at, Jacob?
That's a good list. I could have guessed your list also, though.
Yeah, that's okay.
Let's see here.
Do you have visuals for this one?
I do have visuals for here.
All right, I'll stop sharing and you could put yours up.
See, looks a little better, right?
I got it. All right. Oh, you got bubbles on there. You got 3 different logos. All right.
I got a mixture of the different logos here. All right.
I know.
And I don't have them all on the same slide for dramatic effect.
Okay.
So I have an honorable mention here, and that's Boss Bailey. And I just really liked Boss Bailey. I was excited when he came out of college when we drafted him. I thought that was awesome. He had a few decent years, nothing too crazy. Number 3 on my list, I have Tahir Whitehead.
You like Whitehead, all right.
I liked Whitehead. Now, he took over when Tulloch got injured, and he played very well. But that was only like for 1 year. Tulloch came back. Tulloch took his spot back. Whitehead never played, quite the same. And I think he went to like the Raiders afterward and everything, didn't do as well. But that was somebody that I liked on the Lions. Next up, I have DeAndre Levy.
Yes.
You already talked about him. Loved Levy. He was awesome. Big part of when we made the playoffs and everything. Obviously, the injury, now we can kind of look past it, but Stephen Tulloch. I saw them on there, I was like, okay, here we go. But I kind of knew when I made this list that we might have similar tastes here. Tight ends, I feel like we will go different, but the linebackers.
All right.
Yeah. So those are the top three, my favorite three Lions linebackers.
All right. I love it. Yeah, Tulloch was awesome. He was the one that was injured, right? And
he injured himself during the celebration.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah.
Yeah. But then Whitehead came in, and Whitehead actually did pretty well.
All right. We're doing the top 5 current linebackers in the NFL. Do you want to go, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first for this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Top 5 current linebackers. Can you see the screen?
Yep, we got it.
Number 5, I have Demario Davis of the Jets. So, played for the Saints for a while. He's got the one sleeve thing going on. I like what he does as a linebacker. Number 4, Azeez Al-Shaair from the Texans. Dude just plays rough, all over the field. Devastating hits. I like the way he plays also. Number 3, Roquan Smith. Happy that he's not in Chicago. He's in Baltimore. I just like that style of linebacker play. Number 2, Jack Campbell. You can call this one a homer pick or whatever you want to call it, but I mean, this is my honest ranking here. I think he all-pro. He's played up towards the top. My number 1 linebacker, though, is Fred Warner from the 49ers. I think he's just the epitome of what you want a linebacker to be.
I like it. All right. I am going to go with mine, and some of our lists duplicate, which does not surprise me at all, but my number 5 pick does not. I went with Nick Bolton for the Chiefs. Good linebacker in the Steve Spagnuolo defense. The linebackers are asked to do a lot, and he is, just a top guy on that team. Number 4, Roquan Smith. Like you said, I'm glad he's not on the Bears. He gives me nightmares when we play the Ravens because he's all over the place and didn't do too much last year versus us, but that previous year wrecked our whole game plan. Like, just gave Jared Goff fits. Number 3, Zach Vaughn. Been one of the highest PFF ranked the last couple of years with the Eagles. Just solid linebacker play. It also helps that they're solid up front with the Eagles, and that helps your linebacker, as we talked with Devin Bush. Number 2, Jack Campbell, all pro. What else? We've already talked about him enough. Just glad he's on our team. He fits this mold of that Chris Spielman laid out for middle linebackers with the Lions. And number 1, no surprise, Fred Warner. His football instincts, his just being in the right place at the right time, affecting the defense, are affecting the offense in a way that you got a game plan around him. He's amazing now. He comes off the injury last year. We'll see how he comes back this year, but as of right now, he is my number 1 linebacker in the NFL.
Solid list.
All right, I will go with my GOAT linebacker. I don't know if you went with this one because it's a little bit before your time, but Lawrence Taylor is like kind of defined that edge position. Really, like before they had that. I mean, it's kind of almost cheating putting him in there. Ray Lewis would have been my guy if you wouldn't allow me to have Lawrence Taylor. I would have went with Ray Lewis just because you talk about fire or whatever. But Lawrence Taylor, you need to know where he was on the field. He could wreck a whole game plan, and if you had Tecmo Super Bowl, he'd block every extra point. So maybe that's why he's on my list.
Tecmo Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
It's a sweet game. All right, Jacob. Who did you put for your GOAT linebacker?
You stole my thunder because you had to mention more than one linebacker in your GOATs.
I know.
Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis is the greatest of all time linebacker for me. Lawrence Taylor was before my time, so I never saw LT play at all. But I saw a lot of Ray Lewis. That Super Bowl, the Ravens defense. Just the intensity of him even coming out on the field. You had to know where he was at all times. Awesome, using him to play in Madden. So that's my GOAT.
I like it. He was amazing. Ray Lewis is just Pretty crazy. All right, let's move into the next group is gonna be smaller than the previous group, linebackers. So we'll probably fly through this a little bit quicker. We're gonna start with the tight ends. Jacob, why don't you talk about? I'll get the screen up here. Why don't you talk about the Lions tight ends?
All right, Lions tight end group currently stands as Sam Laporta, Brock Wright, Tyler Conklin, Thomas Gordon, Zach Horton, and Miles Kitselman. A little bit different than the group we rolled with last year. And also, when you look at their contracts, most of them are only signed through this year. So, not unlike the linebackers, this could look way different this time next year. Although we hope Laporta's locked in long term sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we're hoping that Laporta gets the contract. I don't know if that's going to come for the season, though, man. I just don't know. We'll see if he's out there in training camp. Yep. Brock Wright is, this is his last year, definitely. And Tyler Conklin, which I'm happy that we got Tyler Conklin. I think he can add depth to this team, especially when we don't know what's going to go on with Laporta. I do like that we signed Conklin, but we don't have a lot of depth this year. And I was kind of surprised that we didn't address this in the draft, or other than Kitselman. I don't know if I'd want to spend a high draft pick on a tight end, and this tight end group in this draft wasn't deep, so maybe that's why we didn't do it. But the tight ends are important for our team, so I'm kind of surprised that we're not, have a little more depth here.
Yep, I agree, especially with how it went last year.
Yep. So Sam Laporta, one of the top tight ends in this league, was ranked 5th in, last year on PFF. Brock Wright was towards bottom at 71st. No one else was ranked on this team. We'll see how Laporta looks, but if Laporta is healthy, then our tight ends look good. If he's not healthy, we have big question marks.
I mean, if I'm just going to make a bold prediction right now, I think Laporta is the only one that's still here this time next year.
You think so?
And I would be okay with that.
Yeah, I could see Conklin carving out a role and maybe just signing another 1-year deal. Maybe Brock Wright, but I don't know. I think
if you're Conklin, though, is that what you're trying to do here? Are you trying to show enough that you get a decent contract somewhere else?
Yeah, well, I mean, you do. I mean, yes, of course, he wants a bigger contract. He's from Michigan, though, so depending on the situation, I could see a situation where he's back.
Right.
All right. Vikings tight ends. Obviously, start with T.J. Hockenson, former Lion. Huge cap hit this year. We'll get into that. You got Gavin Bartholomew, Josh Oliver, Max Bredesen, Bryson Nesbitt, and Ben Urasic. So TJ Hawkinson's obviously their starter, $15.6 million cap hit. I know that they redid the deal last year, but they kind of rolled over some of the cap hit into this year, which is a team that's struggling with cap space. I struggle to see why you're paying $15.6 million to TJ Hockenson. That seems like not a great use of money there. They did draft Max Bredesen this year in the 5th round from Michigan. He was a fullback at Michigan, so I don't know what he's going to play. More of a blocking tight end. He could play that fullback position if they need to. So that'll be interesting. But any thoughts on these guys any thoughts on TJ Hockenson or the rest of the guys, Jacob?
That's the irony of them drafting 2 tight ends, is that Bredesen is more of a fullback, a hybrid, but he's a blocking player. And then the other one, Gavin Bartholomew, is also a blocker. Neither of them provide much in the passing game. So you're kind of rolling with Hockenson again. You're paying him a lot of money, and you're hoping he returns to how he looked before. Obviously, he had the brutal knee injury. Has not been the same since that's happened. He's playing with a young quarterback. So, typically when you're playing with a young quarterback, the tight end's like the safety net, and you see like almost too many targets, right? And he just sits down in the zone and is very reliable. That's not happening with Hockenson.
No.
I don't know what's going on. But I mean, can the Vikings afford right now to cut him and roll with who they have behind him?
Yeah.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah, they don't have any pass catching options back there. I looked at, Hockenson started 15 of 17 games last year. He only had 3 touchdowns throughout the whole season. He had, 66 receptions. I was expecting more because, like you said, JJ's out there. He's gonna, TJ would be the safety valve. You go out there. I don't know if he just didn't have a good rapport with him, but Kirk Cousins was really great for TJ Hawkinson. TJ was putting up great numbers with Kurt and not so much with JJ. So, and that could be something to do with JJ. I mean, he didn't really, light the world on fire, but Kyler was feeding Trey McBride for the last couple of years. So depending on how this goes, you could see an uptick for TJ.
Do you have TJ's targets in front of you?
Don't. Oh yeah, he had 66 targets and 51 receptions last year. So I think I said 66 receptions, but I meant 66 targets, which is real low. So you're talking in the Kirk Cousins years, you're talking
Twice.
127, 129 targets, 95 receptions, 86, and then 5 and 6 touchdowns. So you're talking, like almost double the amount of targets than what you got.
And he played the same amount of games as in 2023. He just played 100 less snaps and got half as many targets.
Yep.
So I don't know that you can really say that that's necessarily on the quarterback. That's more of the offense is not moving the way the offense wants to move. And I don't know if that's Kevin O'Connell's unwillingness to, change up the game plan or try to work around that. The Vikings offense was just terrible.
Yes.
And yet somehow enough to beat us on Christmas. I'll never get over that.
I know you won't. I know you won't. And the Vikings fans this year will not let us forget it either. I know how that's going to go. All right, Jacob, why don't you break down the Bears tight ends?
All right, Bears tight end group. Colston Loveland really came on last year in his rookie season. He signed through 2028. You also have Cole Kmet, who was not too shabby as a starter before then. So they've got kind of a two-headed attack right now. They're both signed for several years. Behind them, Sam Roush, who they actually drafted a third tight end, which was weird. Steven Carlson, Kadir Ismail. Oh, you're going to make me say these names. Nikola Kalinic, and then Hayden Large. I don't know about those names, but I'm guessing I nailed it perfectly.
You did. You did good, man.
Yes. So Bears tight ends, they've got a couple really good ones at the top. Colson Loveland, Cole Kmet, and then Sam Roush. They're adding somebody who's more of a blocker. They've got a good tight end group, right? I mean, they can cause some damage to teams,
especially with Ben Johnson running the offense there. He likes to include the tight ends.
Who's that?
Colson Loveland really came on at the end of last year. Super impressive. I expect him to take another step forward this year. Cole Kmet is going to see a reduction just because as Colson Loveland came up, you looked at his targets were actually the last 2 years have been down. They were at a high of 90 3 years ago, but last year was 48, and Colson had 92 targets. So, they obviously started looking at him a lot more, and I really noticed it in the second half of the year. They started to give him a lot more looks. And like you said, they drafted Sam Roush, so they're going to be running heavy sets. That's a Ben Johnson offense. He would do that when he was here. They want to get the running game going, protect Caleb. But when you start doing that, you limit your wide receiver options too. So we'll see how that works out. Their offensive line isn't going to be as good this year, the Bears, so maybe that's why they decide to go with another blocking tight end. We'll see. But yeah, this is a trouble unit. This is going to give the Lions some fits, especially with some of the issues that we have. Linebackers are we going to put a nickel on Colson Loveland? That's a big body to put a small nickel on there. Normally we would have Alex guarding tight end, so it's going to be a little different this year. I'm hoping that we don't go to the years in the past where the tight ends really tore us up. We'll see how that goes.
Problem when they're running those big jumbo packages too. If Loveland and Kmet are both on the field at the same time, they can very easily look and see what their best matchup's going to be because they're both like 6'5" or taller. They're both big targets for the red zone or in third down situations. I mean, it's a good situation for them to be in. It's a bad problem for the rest of the league.
Yep. And then you get them out there in space and blocking, and you got like Burden and Odunze, and getting yak. So you got to watch out for that. All right, let's move on to the Packers tight end group. Yeah, start with Tucker Kraft. Have Branch throw his helmet across the field again. Maybe this year we'll see if they both get back on the field after ACL injuries or Achilles and ACL injuries. Luke Musgrave, uh, took over a little bit for when Tucker Kraft went down. Nowhere near the receiving threat that Tucker Kraft is. Got Josh Wiley, Drake Dabney, Messiah Swinson, and RJ Maryland. A pretty thin group, especially when you're considering that Tucker Kraft is coming off an ACL injury. If he was fully healthy, then this unit would look a lot more, a lot stronger. But Tucker was hurt November 2nd of last year. So I don't know when they would expect him to be back, back playing. Uh, you they used to say a year for ACLs. Now, some people could be back in 8 to 10 months. Tight ends are a bigger group and they're asked to do a lot. That's also blocking, and that might delay his return a little bit, I would think.
Yes. I mean, I stand by what I said before, that I think that Tucker Kraft benefits a lot from being Jordan Love's security blanket, and from also just when these broken down plays happen, he seems to be in the right place at the right time. And maybe that's, him and Love having a good connection, and that backyard football thing kind of coming out. But he's just not somebody that I look at and be like, man, he's dangerous. Like, you've got to look out for the routes that this guy's running. You've got to look out, for the blocks that he's laying. I think he does everything okay. I just don't think he's elite. And I know that's a debate that Packers fans have, that they think he's top 5 in the league, especially now that you have this ACL injury that he's coming back from. I don't know how long it's even going to take him to get to the form that he was in before.
Yeah.
And you're right. When you look at the guys behind him, the drop off is very big.
Yeah, I would push back a little bit on him being there. I mean, I don't ever see him as like making like these super tough athletic catches. It's just him being a smart football player and being in the right place at the right time, and Jordan Love finding him. He does that really well, and he's so aggravating playing against. He just he's gonna get that first out. He's gonna get the yards after the catch. He's gonna seem to be teams forget about him for whatever reason. And I don't like to if it was my guy on my team, I'd be like, he's just so smart. He's in the right spot at the right time and does all those things. So I don't want to cut him short on that. But I also don't think he has elite tight end skills that he's making these super tough catches or catches in traffic. Not that I see. Uh, he just tends to be a guy that just could read the zone, be in the right place at the right time, which is also very important. So no discounting that. But I also don't think he's in the top 5 in this league. So do you want to rank you went first last time. You want me to go first this time with
You can go
ranking the
first. Yep.
units? Okay. So all mine are on one slide, so there's no secret here. So number 4, I went with the Vikings. TJ Hockenson said has huge drop off, and after that, really, you're talking undrafted free agents or rookies. Not much depth there, and TJ Hawkinson's has went down further. Now, I could see an argument where you put Green Bay as last because of Tucker Kraft's injury. Depends on what he comes back. So I guess I could see an argument there right now, currently, that Green Bay would be third, but I'm going on Tucker Kraft maybe being available for part of the season. In that case, I put them at third. Number 2 is the Lions. Sam Laporta being injured, that is a big question mark too. Injuries are really it could affect this list greatly, but it's clear to me that the Bears are number 1. Colston may be the best tight end in this division, and Cole Kmet is as a solid number 2. So I think it's clear that the Bears have the best tight end unit in this division.
Yeah. All right. Well, you can just keep your little list up there, and
Okay.
we'll just put my name in front of it.
My little list.
You can just put my name on there because mine matches yours completely. Okay. The Vikings, I mean, you already said it. Hockenson not playing as well. Getting paid a lot of money. We don't know what's going to happen with that yet, but I just don't think that things are looking up there. Packers, I put number 3. Like I said, with the Kraft injury, we don't know when he's going to be coming back, but I would assume that he's probably going to be playing at least half of the year. And if the Packers are making a playoff run, he's probably going to be a decent part of that. And then number 2, I think that between the Lions and Packers, that comes down to Sam Laporta being better than Tucker Kraft. Because if you take those two away, if you're saying that both of them are injured or both of them miss time, the Packers have Luke Musgrave, the Lions have Brock Wright. Those are like the next man up. And Musgrave started 10 games last year, 24 catches, no touchdowns. Brock Wright started 8 games. He had 14 catches and 2 touchdowns. The drop off for both of them is very, very big. So I just think that this comes down to Sam Laporta being a better tight end than Tucker Kraft. So I've got the Lions at number 2. And then you're right. It's painful, but you have to put the Bears number 1. Colston Loveland already showed that he can be a top tier tight end. And I think he's even going to do better this year. Cole Kmet's still in Chicago. Maybe he's a little bit better of a blocker. Colston's a better receiver, but collectively, those two, they just have the best tight end unit in the division. And I don't think that you have a true debate for any of these other teams, overtaking them. And that also, like, if Laporta gets hurt, the Lions are kind of hurting, right? We don't know what we're going to do. If Colston Loveland misses a couple games, Cole Kmet's right there. And yes, there's going to be a drop-off, but that's not that bad. And, if Cole Kmet gets hurt and misses, they've got a rookie waiting that maybe can't catch as well, but that just frees up some more targets for Colston Loveland. The Bears are in a great spot with their tight end group.
Mm-hmm. Yep, they spent some resources there, that's for sure. All right. I'll go with my 3 favorite tight ends. I'm curious what yours are, because after you said mine, one of them is going to go way back. I don't even know if you've heard of him before.
I have
my
not.
number 1's Sam Laporta is the best tight end that I've seen the Lions have on their roster in my time of being a Lions fan. Number 2, Brandon Pettigrew. Not the greatest Lion, but he's had 2 pivotal games that I could think of for the Lion. That Cleveland Browns game where he caught that pass from Stafford to win that game. I mean, that's probably why he's on my list. He was a solid option. I don't think he ever lived up to the first round draft pick that he had. I think he was picked 21. It was in the Stafford draft. I don't think he ever lived up to that. He did have some easy drops, but he was good with the team. Like, he wasn't like an Eric Ebron situation. He was also in that Cowboys game where there was that pass interference that flag got picked up there, where they, certainly pass interfered on him. So that was another pivotal moment. Brandon was there. David Sloan is just one of those guys that just try hard. I remember in my early days of fantasy football, he wouldn't be my starter, but if I was on a bye week with someone, I would always pick up David Sloan, and he would get he gave me a touchdown every once in a while. I just like that guy. Just like, that body type just looks like an old school tight end. Dan Campbell could make the list, but I got to be honest with you, during his time with the Lions as a player, he wasn't on my radar. So didn't make my list, but he certainly could be there. All right, Jacob, I'm curious what your list is.
All right, let me bring it up here. All right, here we go. My top 3 Lions tight ends. You'll never guess number 3 because this is a deeply personal thing.
Okay. Hey, I love it. That's awesome.
So my 3rd tight end I have on the list is Marcus Pollard. I think Pollard was with the Lions for 1 year. He could have been for more than that, but I believe this was Joey Harrington throwing to Marcus Pollard. This was like Madden 05, 06 or something like that. And yeah, that's solely just because of the Madden game. He was a target on there. I want to say it was like Charles Rogers, Mike Williams were the other receivers that were on there. So Marcus Pollard, I have a personal connection there, and it's through the magic of Madden, not even what he did on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Brandon Pettigrew. Exactly for the reason that you mentioned. I remember the Cleveland game. He was a first-round draft pick. Wasn't ever what we wanted him to be. He had the injuries that kind of derailed his career and ended it. I don't think he even played for another team, right? Like, he got hurt. We had to cut him, and that was that. But yes, Pettigrew, some iconic moments in Detroit. Number 1, Sam Laporta.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's, he's only a couple of years into his career, but I think he's already set the record for tight end, receptions, touchdowns. What he's already done, I think, surpasses any other tight end that we've had, with the exception of Charlie Sanders, who you mentioned, who is not somebody that I, ever saw play either.
Yeah. Do you think that TJ Hockenson would have made this if he didn't go to the Vikings? Like, would he have been in your top 3?
He had the trajectory. I think he was getting there. But then it became, when it became evident that we weren't going to pay him, we were going to have to move on from him. Then they trade him to the Vikings. Then you kind of feel sore about it for a little bit. And then, now he's one of them.
Yeah, and then he goes there and says, "I finally get a chance to win." Yeah, that didn't rub me the wrong way.
Yeah, right. And now thanks. Now you're dead to me.
Yeah, exactly. Going inside the division really hurt him leaving us. Like, if he went outside the division and didn't say those things, I think that he might have had a different outlook. Sam Laporta just adds the blocking element that TJ Hockenson didn't add, and he's better at yak than TJ Hockenson, at least in my opinion. But TJ's in no shape or form was a bad tight end for us. I mean, he was a solid player. It just, like I said, him leaving hurt. All right, we're gonna go top 5 current tight ends. Do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
Hey, you already got it up. You keep
I got
roll
it
with
up.
it.
Okay. All right, I'm going to start with in the NFL current top 5. I have Sam Laporta just barely making my top 5. I don't want to ruin the rest of them, but I could make an argument that he could be out of there, especially with the injury. But I think if he's healthy, if you consider everything blocking, catching, yards after catch, red zone threat, I think that he is a top 5 tight end in this league. This hurts me, but going into this year, I think Colson Loveland can pass Sam Laporta. He, as far as a receiving tight end, he actually surprising is he was the number 3 tight end on PFF last year, Colson Loveland, and I think he's going to be better this year. That hurts me, but I mean, as a Michigan fan, I'm happy about it. But as inside the division, this is what I fear happened when they made him a first round pick and he went to Chicago.
Right. Our worst nightmares were realized as soon as that pick was made. We don't like the Michigan players going within the division, and that made a lot of sense.
It did. Too much sense. Number 3, I've got to go with George Kittle. I know he's winding down in his career, but he is an amazing receiver. Just talk about guys that know where to be on the football field, threat down the field, threat over the middle of the field, threat with the ball in his hands. Just an overall good player. Injuries may have taken him down a notch. I know he's getting over one right now in this offseason, but we'll see how he ends up at the end of the year. But as of right now, number 3 is George Kittle. Number 2, Trey McBride out of Arizona. Very good player. Hopefully that Petzing brings some of that magic for Sam this year, and if he's healthy, could put up Trey McBride type numbers. But Trey McBride's been last year he was great, and he's been getting better each year. My number 1 is Brock Bowers. That dude makes some crazy catches. Like the body control this guy has, he is. If he gets any, him and Mendoza could be dangerous if Mendoza starts this year, but we know what Kirk Cousins could do with a good tight end. So he could really put up some big numbers in fantasy football this year. Clearly going to be the number 1 tight end, I think, to get this year. So I think Brock Bowers he is a freak. Drafting 2 tight ends back to back in first round is weird for the Raiders, but they made the right decision with Brock Bowers.
Yeah, I think it was one of those where they were just like best player available, and they were like, we can't pass on this guy.
Yep.
And they were right to not have.
Yeah, he's awesome. All right, man. Let's see your top 5.
All right, here we go. Top 5 current tight ends. So at number 5, I had Colson Loveland here at number 5. You've already mentioned it. I mean, he did really well last year.
Okay. Well, I can see that. I got it now.
Now you can see Trey McBride.
Yep, got it.
All right. Number 4, Trey McBride. The reason I have him at 4 is just because I don't know if you can really withstand how many targets they're giving him. So obviously the receptions are high, the touchdowns look good, but you're doing that on, I think it was like 170 targets.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he was the focal point of the offense. The receivers were not doing very well. The running game wasn't doing very well. Now they've got Jeremiah Love. Obviously, they're hoping that Marvin Harrison plays a little bit better. I just don't think he's going to sustain getting 170 targets every year. But he is a top tier tight end, and he's showed that he can be a threat at all times. You got to know where he's at. Number 3, I have Sam Laporta. This is hoping that he stays healthy. I truly do believe that he's a top 5 tight end in the league. Number 2, I've got George Kittle. You already mentioned it. He does everything well. He's a nasty blocker even. He doesn't mind getting his hands dirty. He's a threat when he's out there. You've always got to be worried where he's at. Injuries have slowed him down, but I still think he's at the top. And number 1, you said it, Brock Bowers. He's just on a different level. Does everything good. They know where he's at all times, and he's still able to, make them pay. And now he's got Mendoza back there, so I think he might do big things this year.
Yeah. You got your GOAT? I'm going to let you do your GOAT, your tight end GOAT.
Real quick, before we move on, because when I was making the list, I remembered. So in my Dynasty Fantasy Football League, somebody was trying to get Luther Burden from the Bears for me. I had him. I drafted him last year. They're trying to get him. So they included draft picks, and the weakest spot on my team is tight end. So I look at his team, and he's got Brock Bowers at tight end. And, with these trades, usually you just try to introduce some things and see what they're willing to do. So I countered the trade. I was going to give him a first-round pick and Luther Burden for Brock Bowers and a second-round pick, and he accepted the trade. So I traded Luther Burden for Brock Bowers.
Oh my gosh.
So now my Dynasty League, I have got like a top 5 player at each position. Last year I lost in the championship, though.
Man, having a good tight end. I mean, the tight end group is pretty deep offensively. There are some years where they're not, like you really want to get one of those tight ends. I think it's pretty deep this year, but Brock Bowers, especially they don't have a lot of receiving options and, the Raiders. So, he's going to get targets.
Yeah. I mean, that was the weakest spot on my team last year. My receivers, until Malik Neighbors and Tyreek got hurt early on, but my receivers I was having to bench like a really good receiver and like try to take turns because I had so many on my team. Mm-hmm. But my tight end, I had like Jawan Johnson for the Saints. I had TJ Hawkinson. I forget who else I had, but it was like, man, my tight ends are just bad. So now I feel pretty good about next year.
That's awesome. All right. Tell me who your GOAT is.
All right. Can you see where it says Brock Bowers now?
Yep. Got it.
Tony Gonzalez.
All right.
I went back and forth on this a lot because I think that there is a true debate here about Rob Gronkowski and Travis Kelce.
Mm-hmm.
Gonzalez has done it for way longer than either of them did. More receptions, just more of an impact for more time. So that's why I went with Gonzalez.
All right.
Did you go the same way or did you go different?
I will show you in 1 second here. Boom. Tony Gonzalez.
Right.
I was wondering, I was wondering about this because I was like, man, we could have a really good debate because Gronkowski is like, he did it on 2 teams, but he always had Tom Brady. Tony Gonzalez had a lot of different quarterbacks, but always was consistent. And he really is like almost to me like the prototype of what you want a receiving tight end to be, right? Like he could make really tough catches, athletic, but he was also a blocker. Like he just is what it is. Now, Gronkowski was a freak. Like that is a man above men. Like that guy just looks so, especially with that big elbow brace, just looks so intimidating, would make really great catches. I would not argue with people who said that he's number 1 tight end. Tony Gonzalez did it for so long, multiple teams without Tom Brady, which I think helped Gronkowski greatly. So that's why Gonzalez is there. But I think even before our time, there's probably some tight ends. Like I think Kellen Winslow, you don't think a junior, but senior. He was like an old school tight end. You had like Ditka, like those were like your receiving tight ends back in the day, but they still blocked more than they received. It was like Tony Gonzalez was in that time. Antonio Gates was an amazing receiving tight end too. Like just like I know everyone's like, oh, he's a basketball player, he boxed people out. But if you watch him play, that's what he did in the red zone. Like he just use his body leverage so well. in there and Philip Rivers and him had a great connection. So I don't think Antonio Gates makes my all-time list, but to me, he is one of the greatest, like, in the modern receiving tight ends.
Agreed. But I do think that you have a real debate with Tony Gonzalez, Gronkowski, and Kelsey.
Yeah.
But what you already kind of said, Gronk always had Brady. Kelsey's got Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Gonzalez did not have, all pro, all time Hall of Fame throwing to him, correct? I mean, who was his quarterback for most years on the Chiefs?
Chiefs, he probably had, I don't even know. I mean, we'd have to look through that, but it was obviously not on the level of Patrick Mahomes. Now he had Matt for the Falcons. God,
Matt Ryan.
Jesus. Yeah, Matt Ryan. So, I mean, that's a good quarterback. I mean, it's not on the level of Mahomes or Brady, but Matt Ryan is, was a good quarterback. So it's not like he didn't have.
The peak of Tony Gonzalez's career, Trent Green was the quarterback for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So he was not a bad quarterback, but Tony Gonzalez played with Damon Heward, Tyler Thigpen, Elvis Gerbach, Rich Gannon for a year, Steve Bono. Yeah, right?
Wow. Yeah, it's still just. Yep.
And then first 2 years of his career, he played with Joe Montana.
Yeah. I was wondering if it was back that far, and I thought that it was, but then I was like, man, that just seems like a long time ago. And because Tony Gonzalez, would you look at him like on TV, he still looks young. Like he looks like he could go play. Like he does the Amazon Prime show. He doesn't look old to me. Like he looks like, he could go out there and give a couple snaps.
I may have misspoke because he wasn't the starter, but now I can't say for sure whether he was on those squads or not.
Okay. But yeah, Tony Gonzalez is up there. But Dan Pask is on here. I said that Gronk, he's voting for Gronk, but he says he understands.
Right, and that's a real debate.
It is, and it's I'd love to have that debate, but I think that to me, part of it goes with the era that Tony Gonzalez came up to. Rob Gronkowski come up with, there was already receiving tight ends, and they were using tight ends a lot different than what they were using with Tony Gonzalez. He kind of paved a way for the modern receiving tight end. I wanted to point out that Dan Pass said, evening, going from the POD to you guys. That's a great evening lineup. Yeah, we usually go on Tuesdays to avoid the POD guys, because of the holiday they pushed on to our day. So me and Jeremy will fight it out. Jacob will be my tag team partner. As long as it's not Morgan, I think or Miko, I think we'll feel all right for tag team
just
partners.
Keep trying to take us out.
Yeah, we're a real threat.
Yeah.
No, those guys are great over there, but I don't know if each series is going to go on this long because we did the 2 position groups, but I really enjoyed what we did. I'd love to hear some feedback on it, where we went too long, where you'd like to see more in depth, and we could change this as we go on. But I feel pretty good about, the depth that we added to each position groups. How do you feel about it, Jacob?
No, I liked it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Combining some of the longer ones is probably not going to be the move if each one's going to take roughly 45 to 50 minutes. We'll see.
Dan Pass says, thanks for the great show. I'll watch that fight.
Yeah.
Jeremy Reisman won the beat writer, stuff, but he turned 40 this year. So now he's in my category. He's in the, the older category. And Eric, if he's in there, I think he's a little bit older than me. So we would have youth on our side with that tag team partnership, Jacob.
Okay.
When we do the rope-a-dope, we just run around and tire them out.
I think I'd tire you out. Do you have that in you?
I tag you in. Yeah, go in there. You're the one that gets up at 4:30 in the morning and works out. So you're good. You're good to go. No, man. Tigers were up when we started the show, gave up a grand slam, and now they're losing 10-6. I'm never done with my team. I love them, but this season is not looking good. And I am not against trading Tarek Skubal at the trade deadline this year if we get the right deal.
It really stinks though when summer starts and you already feel like you're out of it, and we're already kind of going through the motions here, and the team seems to be playing like they're going through the motions, and it's like the fire is gone in June.
I know. Yeah, it makes for a very long summer, sports wise. especially after seeing the Pistons go down. We don't even like if it'd be one thing if we'd got to the finals or something like that, and we could have had like win it a free agency with NBA with some excitement. I mean, I'll be excited to see who the Pistons, add to this roster because they're obviously going to have to make changes to this roster to be competitive in the playoffs next year.
We were robbed of a Knicks Pistons Eastern Conference Finals.
And the Cavs didn't even give it a show, man. Went down just like it wasn't even close.
When they play a team that flops and plays that better than they do, they don't stand a chance.
Oh my God. I'm watching clips of I did watch the Thunder Spurs game the other night.
Yeah.
But they SGA, like I don't it's hard to call that in the moment. I get it. Like it's hard to call that flop in the moment. And you can't use a challenge. Like you get one challenge a game. It'd be hard for you to challenge all those calls, right? There's got to be like either something after the game. Find those guys, do something. They got to change that because it is ruining basketball for me. Like it is not fun to watch that crap. I don't want to watch people at the free throw line. And I hate when they make these moves just to get the foul and then they do these weird shooting motions. Like, the picture of Harden throwing out his legs in the Pistons game to try to get a foul on Cade. Like, that's terrible.
My point has always been, though, like Harden can shoot the ball. Why are you not trying to score? Why are you doing this awkward stuff trying to get the foul? And SGA has been doing the same stuff. He can make those shots, but like the one where he fell when the guy didn't even touch him, you didn't make that shot because you didn't try to make the shot. You were trying to sell to get to the free throw line. And for a brief period of time, they did find people to try to slow that down. But I think it just was happening on such a large scale that they just threw that out the window. And now this is what we're stuck with.
Yeah. They need to fix that. Like SGA is like he is blatantly like throwing people off. Like he'll like put his whole elbow and arm and shove people off and then do a step back jumper. It's impossible to stop that. And then he'll do then what he does, he gets you off like by 2 feet, and then you run to try to make up that ground and he'll fake the shot and then run into you and get the foul, and that makes it even worse.
That was also an offensive foul when they when you pump fake and they jump and you don't shoot, you kind of like throw yourself into them. That was an offensive foul when they did that.
Yeah.
But it was like they just kept it quiet and just moved away from that, and now we're right back to where we were before.
Yeah.
Well, makes me really I'm really pulling for the Spurs, which I never thought as a Pistons fan I would ever say. But I do like Wemby, and I'm pulling for the Spurs.
All right. Yeah. I hate the Spurs get these generational talents at center.
I just talked to JJ about that earlier. Like that was one of the draft lotteries that hurt very bad.
Man,
because you knew Wemby was coming, and we had the best odds, and we still get leapfrogged. And we did draft Asar that year, but obviously when you've got the generational people, we never get those first round pick, number one overall pick. Like when Cade was the number one pick, there was a lot of debate about who was the number one pick.
Yep.
Thank God we picked right. But, it wasn't like with Wemby where it was like, you could practically have started printing his jersey the night the lottery happened.
Yeah. Can you imagine having Cade and Wemby on a team?
Yeah,
it'd be over. Like, it'd be over. And he'd fit. Wemby would fit with our team, too. That's the crazy thing.
Absolutely.
Like, the competitive fire, the defensive stuff. And what would be crazy is that, he's such a threat down low, but he could shoot the 3 too, which is insane. Like he's just
what we've been missing.
All-time player. Yeah, exactly. All right, man. It's been great. For Jacob, I'm Jason. Next week, we'll be back with this position group. We haven't decided what we're going to do yet, but it'll be on Tuesday night, I'm sure. So until then, go Lions.